I cremated my son 29 years ago. His name was Ryan. He was 7 years old when he disappeared from our backyard in Denver on a Saturday afternoon in June of 1995. They found his body 3 weeks later in a ravine 40 miles north of the city. I identified what was left of him at the county morgue. I was 33 years old, and I had to tell my wife that our only child was gone. 3 nights ago, my phone rang at 11:47. I know the exact time because I was staring at the clock, unable to sleep like most nights. The number showed an Arizona area code. I almost let it go to voicemail. At 62, you learn that late-night calls bring bad news. But something made me answer. Maybe the same instinct that used to wake me when Ryan had bad dreams. Hello? There was silence on the other end. Then breathing, slow and deliberate like someone gathering courage. Is this Michael? Michael Brennan? The voice was male, uncertain, with a slight Western accent I couldn't place. Who's asking? I don't know how to say this. A pause. My name is Ryan Castellano. I'm 36 years old. I live in Phoenix. And 3 months ago, I took one of those ancestry DNA tests because my wife wanted to know about our family medical history. I sat up in bed, my heart suddenly hammering. I got a message last week, he continued, from someone listed as a close family match. 99% probability. A woman named Jennifer Brennan. Your daughter. I don't have a daughter, I said, my voice coming out harsh. And my son died in 1995. So whatever scam this is, I know about Ryan Brennan, he interrupted. I've been researching for 3 months. The missing child report from June 17th, 1995. The search. The memorial service at St. Catherine's Church. I've read everything. My hands started shaking. Then you know he's dead. Someone's playing a sick joke on you. Mr. Brennan, I have a birthmark on my left shoulder blade. It looks like a crescent moon, and I have a scar on my right knee from when I fell off a swing when I was 4. My earliest memory is a blue house with a tire swing in the backyard and someone singing Blackbird by the Beatles while making breakfast. The phone slipped from my hand. I scrambled to pick it up. We had a blue house. Ryan had a tire swing, and I used to sing that song every Sunday morning when I made pancakes. Ryan had both those marks. The birthmark, the scar from that swing incident that needed 6 stitches. That's not possible, I whispered. I identified his body. I saw him. I know. I read the police report. They found remains in Berthoud Pass, severely decomposed, scattered by animals. They matched clothing, an approximate age, and build. How did you get the police report? I'm a lawyer, Mr. Brennan. I know how to file requests. I've spent 3 months trying to understand this, because I was told my entire life that I was abandoned at a fire station in Albuquerque when I was 7. No ID, no name, no memory of anything before that day. I was in the foster system for 3 years before the Castellanos adopted me. I couldn't breathe. The room was tilting. Where are you right now? I asked. My apartment in Phoenix. I'm looking at a photo of Ryan Brennan from his school picture. Spring 1995, first grade. Mr. Brennan, I found this photo in the Denver Post archives, and I see my face. I see my son's face. He has my eyes. My wife says I have the same smile. You have a son? 2. Marcus is 5. Leo is 3. Mr. Brennan, I need to know if this is real. If there's any possibility, give me your address, I said, already getting out of bed. I'm driving to Phoenix. I'll leave in an hour. It's a 12-hour drive. I don't care. Give me the address. He did. I wrote it on the back of an envelope with shaking hands. Mr. Brennan, he said quietly, I understand if you don't want to do this, if it's too painful, but I've been looking for who I am my whole life. And 3 months ago, I found a name, Ryan Brennan, and everything I've learned about him feels like looking in a mirror. Stay where you are, I said. Don't go anywhere. I'll be there tomorrow. I hung up and sat in the darkness of my bedroom. The same bedroom I'd shared with Helen for 27 years before the cancer took her 5 years ago. She died still grieving Ryan. She died never knowing her son might be alive. I threw clothes in a bag. I grabbed my wallet and keys. I stopped in the doorway of what used to be Ryan's room, unchanged since 1995. His posters still on the walls, his toys in the closet. Helen couldn't bring herself to change it. Neither could I after she was gone. I got in my truck and started driving south. The drive to Phoenix was the longest 12 hours of my life. I didn't listen to music. I didn't stop except for gas. My mind was racing with impossible possibilities and devastating what-ifs. I kept thinking about that day at the morgue. I was 33 years old, barely holding myself together. The detective had tried to prepare me. The remains are in rough condition, 3 weeks in the elements. We identified the body by clothing and basic physical characteristics. They'd pulled back the sheet. What I saw was barely recognizable as human, but I'd looked at the size, the dark hair, the red jacket Ryan had been wearing, and I'd said yes, that's my son, that's Ryan. What if I'd been wrong? What if in my shock and horror and grief, I'd identified the wrong child? I thought about Helen, how she'd stopped sleeping, how she'd blamed herself because she'd been inside for 5 minutes when Ryan vanished from the backyard, how we'd searched for 3 weeks with hundreds of volunteers combing the mountains, how she'd held that tiny urn at the memorial service, her whole body shaking. If this man was Ryan, then Helen had died not knowing her son was alive. That thought made me pull over to the shoulder and throw up. I reached Phoenix at 11:30 the next morning. The address led me to a modest apartment complex in Tempe. I sat in the parking lot for 10 minutes, trying to steady my breathing. Finally, I got out and walked to Unit 214. I knocked. The door opened immediately, like he'd been waiting by it. The man standing there was tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair starting to gray at the temples. He wore jeans and a polo shirt. He had a wedding ring. He looked nothing like the 7-year-old boy, I remembered. But his eyes, God, his eyes were exactly the same. Brown with green flecks, Helen's eyes. "Mr. Brennan," he said. I couldn't speak. I just stared at him. "I'm sorry," he said. I can't imagine what this is like for you. Come in, please." I followed him inside. The apartment was clean, lived in. Children's toys in a basket, family photos on the walls. A woman appeared from the kitchen. Attractive, maybe 35, with kind eyes. "This is my wife, Anna," Ryan said. "Anna, this is Michael Brennan." She looked at me with sympathy and something else. Nervousness, maybe. "Would you like some coffee?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. We sat in the living room. Ryan sat across from me, leaning forward with his hands clasped. "I don't remember you," he said quietly. "I don't remember being Ryan. My earliest clear memory is waking up at a hospital in Albuquerque. A social worker was there. She kept asking me my name, where I lived, who my parents were, and I couldn't answer any of it. Just blank. What year was this? They told me it was August 1995. 2 months after Ryan Brennan disappeared. I was found outside a fire station at 3 in the morning. No ID, no shoes, wearing clothes too big for me. I had bruises, old ones, healing, and I had a head injury. A concussion, they said, but no recent trauma. Like whatever happened to me had been weeks before. Anna brought coffee. Her hands were shaking as she set down the cups. "The doctors ran tests," Ryan continued. "No hits on missing children databases. They took my photo, sent it around. Nothing. It was like I didn't exist. After 3 months in the hospital and temporary foster care, they gave me a name. Ryan, actually. The nurse who found me called me that because she said I looked like a Ryan. Different last name, though. Ryan Cooper. That's what my foster family called me." "You don't remember anything from before?" "Fragments. Dreams, maybe. A blue house, a swing, someone singing, a woman with blonde hair crying. I used to draw pictures of her when I was young. The counselors thought it was an invented memory, a coping mechanism." "Your mother had blonde hair," I said. My voice cracked. "She used to cry every time she dropped you at school because she missed you." His face changed. Something flickered in his eyes. "I need to know for sure," I said. "I need definitive proof." He nodded. I already found a DNA testing facility. We can go today. They can have results in 48 hours. I stood up. Let's go now. The testing center was 15 minutes away. We barely spoke during the drive. In the facility, a technician took cheek swabs from both of us, filled out paperwork. I paid for expedited processing. Results by Friday evening, she said cheerfully, unaware she was potentially rewriting my entire life. Back at his apartment, Ryan showed me documentation. His ancestry DNA results showing a close family match to Jennifer Brennan. I stared at that name. Who is she? Ryan asked. Your mother's younger sister, I said. She lives in Oregon. We haven't spoken in years. The grief, it drove a wedge in the family. Everyone blamed themselves in different ways. He nodded slowly. That's how I found you. She'd taken a DNA test 2 years ago for fun. When I got flagged as a match, I sent her a message. She called me immediately. She said she had a nephew who died in 1995. But the DNA doesn't lie. She gave me your contact information. I need to call her, I said. She's flying in tomorrow, Ryan said. She wants to meet me, to see if he stopped. She said, I have her sister's eyes. I felt tears starting. You do. You have your mother's eyes exactly. That night, I stayed in a hotel near his apartment. I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, thinking about Helen, thinking about what this meant. At 2 a.m, I called Jennifer. She answered on the first ring. Michael? Why didn't you tell me? I asked. I got the notification 4 days ago. I didn't know what to think. I spent 3 days researching, comparing photos. Michael, his baby picture, the one from the DNA site, it could be Ryan, but I was terrified of hurting you with false hope. He has Helen's eyes, Jen. She was crying. Oh God, Michael, what if it's real? The DNA test results come Friday. But Jen, I know. I looked at him, and I know. That's my son. Helen died thinking. I know, I said. I know. We both cried on the phone. For Helen, for the 29 years lost, for everything. Jennifer arrived Thursday afternoon. I met her at Ryan's apartment. When she saw him, she stopped in the doorway. Her hand went to her mouth. You look exactly like Helen's father, she whispered. The photos from when he was young, the same face shape, the same. She started crying. Ryan looked uncomfortable, uncertain, this stranger crying over him. I'm sorry, Jennifer said, wiping her eyes. This is overwhelming. We sat together, the three of us, and Jennifer showed Ryan photos on her phone. Helen as a child, Helen and me at our wedding, Helen pregnant, Helen holding newborn Ryan. That's my face, Ryan said quietly, looking at a photo of himself at 2 years old. I've seen that face in my sons. I always wondered where they got that smile. I thought maybe from Anna's family. Anna brought out their photo albums. We looked at pictures of Ryan's life, the life we'd missed. First day of school, but not his first day. High school, graduation, college, his wedding day, Marcus and Leo as babies. I looked at a photo of Ryan in a cap and gown. University of Arizona? Full scholarship, he said. I studied law, passed the bar 5 years ago. I work in family law now. Adoption cases, custody disputes. I think maybe because of my own story, wanting to help kids who are lost in the system. I thought about all the milestones I'd missed. His first day of high school, learning to drive, first girlfriend, college applications, his wedding, the birth of my grandchildren. Tell me about my mother, Ryan said suddenly. Please, I want to know who she was. So I told him about Helen Martinez, who I'd met in college, how she loved gardening and terrible horror movies and sang off-key in the car, how she wanted to be a teacher but stayed home with Ryan because she couldn't bear to miss a moment of his childhood, how she blamed herself every single day after he disappeared, how the grief consumed her until the cancer came and took her 5 years ago. She never stopped looking for you, I said. Even after the funeral, she'd see a dark-haired boy at the grocery store and follow him, just to check, just in case. She died still hoping somehow you'd come back. Ryan was crying silently. Anna had her hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry, he said. I'm so sorry. You have nothing to be sorry for, Jennifer said firmly. Nothing about this is your fault. Friday evening, my phone rang at 6:15. The DNA testing center. Mr. Brennan, we have your results. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Ryan and Anna sat across from me. Jennifer stood by the window. The probability of paternity is 99.98%. Mr. Brennan, you are the biological father. I dropped the phone. Ryan caught it. Thank you, he said to whoever was on the line. Then he hung up and looked at me. Dad? The word broke something in me. I covered my face with my hands and sobbed. Jennifer was crying. Anna was crying. Ryan crossed the room and knelt in front of my chair. I'm sorry I don't remember you, he said. I'm sorry I can't be the 7-year-old you lost. But I'm here. I'm alive. And I want to know you. I want my sons to know their grandfather. I pulled him into a hug. He was stiff at first, uncomfortable with this stranger embracing him. But then he relaxed. He hugged me back. We need to figure out what happened, I said when I could speak again. How you survived, where you were, who's in that grave. Ryan pulled back and nodded. I've been working on that. I have some contacts in law enforcement, and I found something. He got his laptop and opened several files. In August 1995, there was a drug bust in Albuquerque, a house connected to a trafficking operation. They found 3 children there. No parents, no guardians. All 3 kids had no memory of their names or where they came from. The case file says they were victims of a trafficking ring that moved kids between Colorado and New Mexico. My blood ran cold. I think whoever took me, they were part of that operation. And when things got hot, when law enforcement closed in, they dumped us, left us at fire stations and hospitals, hoping we'd disappear into the system. But why? Jennifer asked. Why take children? Labor, usually, Ryan said quietly. The operation ran a series of off-the-books, cleaning businesses and construction sites. They used children because they were easier to control. The case file mentions several safe houses in Denver where they kept kids before moving them. I felt sick. You were a slave? I don't remember it. But the head injury, the bruises, the trauma that caused my amnesia, yes. I think so. Did they catch who did it? Most of the operation was dismantled. But the ringleader was never found. A man named Eddie Salazar. He disappeared when the house was raided, assumed to have fled to Mexico. I'm going to kill him, I said. Dad, the word came naturally this time. He's gone. And even if he wasn't, revenge won't give us back those years. He was right. But the rage was overwhelming. What about the body? Jennifer asked. The one Michael identified. Ryan pulled up another file. I requested the forensic report. It was another child. Male, approximately 7 years old, dark hair. But the remains were too degraded for positive identification in 1995. They didn't have the DNA technology they have now. Who was he? I asked. I'm working on that. There were 47 missing children cases in Colorado and surrounding states in 1995. I'm cross-referencing with remains found that year. 2 weeks later, Ryan called me at home in Denver. I'd returned after spending a week in Phoenix getting to know my son, my daughter-in-law, my grandsons. I found him, Ryan said without preamble. The boy in the grave. Who? His name was Daniel Chen, 8 years old, from Boulder. He disappeared 2 days after I did. Same area, same operation, we think. His parents are still alive. They never got closure. I sat down heavily. What do? We tell them. We tell them we found their son, and we give him back to them. 3 days later, I stood in a cemetery with Ryan beside me as they exhumed the grave that had said Ryan Brennan for 29 years. Jennifer was there, and Daniel Chen's parents, Robert and Patricia, both in their 70s now, holding hands and crying. The forensic team did their work. DNA confirmation took 48 hours. When the results came back, I was the one who called the Chens. It's him, I said. It's Daniel. Patricia sobbed. Thank you. Thank you for finding our boy. 2 weeks later, we held a memorial service for Daniel Chen. His real memorial, Ryan spoke, even though he'd never known Daniel, because it seemed important. I'm alive because someone made a terrible mistake 29 years ago, he said to the small gathering. A mistake that gave me back to my family but took Daniel from his. I can't change what happened, but I can promise that Daniel's sacrifice won't be forgotten, and I can promise to live the life he didn't get to live. The Chens had Daniel buried in Boulder, near their home. They put his real name on the headstone. At Ryan's suggestion, we kept the original gravesite in Denver, but we had the headstone changed. It now reads, "In memory of all lost children, may they all find their way home." That was 4 months ago. Ryan and his family are moving to Denver next month. He found a position with a law firm here. They bought a house 3 miles from mine. I see my grandsons twice a week. Marcus calls me Grandpa Mike. Leo is still learning to talk, but he lights up when he sees me. Ryan is slowly remembering things. Small flashes, the tire swing, my old truck, the Beatles song. Last week, I sang Blackbird while making pancakes at his house, and he stopped, his hand frozen halfway to his coffee cup. "I know this song," he said. "I know this moment. It feels like home." He doesn't call me Dad yet, not regularly. Usually it's Michael. But sometimes, when he's not thinking about it, the word slips out, and each time it does, I feel like I've been given a gift. Anna told me last week that she's pregnant, a girl. They're naming her Helen. I called Jennifer and told her. We both cried on the phone. Again. We do that a lot these days. Yesterday, Ryan and I went to Helen's grave. I visit once a week, have for 5 years. He'd never been. We stood in front of the headstone. Helen Martinez Brennan, beloved wife and mother. "I wish I remembered her," Ryan said quietly. "She would have loved the man you became," I said. "She would have been so proud." "Do you think she knows? Wherever she is?" I looked at the grave of the woman I'd loved for 27 years. The woman who died still grieving our son. "I think she's been watching over you this whole time," I said. "I think she never stopped protecting you. And I think she led you home when it was finally time." Ryan put his arm around my shoulders. The gesture was still uncertain, still new, but it was there. "I'm glad I found you," he said. "I'm glad you took that DNA test," Anna insisted. She said knowing our family medical history was important for the kids. I thought it was pointless because I didn't have family history. But she pushed. She saved us. We stood there together, father and son, in front of the grave of the woman who'd loved us both. I've learned something through all of this. I've learned that hope isn't foolish, even when it seems impossible. I've learned that grief doesn't work the way you think it does. You can grieve someone who's alive. You can grieve the time you lost even as you celebrate the time you've gained. I spent 29 years grieving my son. Now, he's here. But I still feel the loss of the 7-year-old who disappeared. I still grieve for the childhood he didn't have with us. I still grieve that Helen never knew. But I'm also grateful, because against impossible odds, my son survived. He built a good life. He found love. He has children of his own. And now, by some miracle, I get to be part of that life. Ryan asked me the other day if I blamed myself for identifying the wrong body. Every day, I told him honestly. "Don't," he said. "You were 33. You'd just lost your son. You did the best you could, and if you hadn't identified someone, if they'd kept looking, they might have found me in that operation. They might have found me before I was dumped at that fire station. And then I might never have been adopted. I might never have met Anna. I might never have had Marcus and Leo." He's right. I know he's right. But forgiveness is hard. Still, I'm trying. I'm trying to let go of the guilt. I'm trying to accept that sometimes terrible things happen and we can only control what we do next. What I do next is show up. I show up for Sunday dinners. I show up for Marcus's soccer games. I show up when Ryan calls and says he needs help moving furniture or wants advice on a case. I show up because I missed 29 years, and I won't miss another day. Last weekend, Ryan brought Marcus and Leo to my house. We set up the old tire swing in the backyard, the one I'd taken down after Ryan disappeared because I couldn't stand to look at it. But I'd kept it in the garage all these years. Marcus climbed on immediately. "Push me, Grandpa Mike. Push me high." I pushed him, watching him laugh and kick his legs. He looked so much like Ryan at that age. Ryan stood beside me, watching his son. "I think I remember this," he said softly. "The feeling, flying through the air, being completely safe because you were right there." "You were always safe with me," I said. "Even when I didn't know where you were, even when I thought you were gone, I never stopped looking. Part of me never stopped waiting for you to come home." He looked at me, and for the first time since I'd found him, I saw recognition in his eyes. Not memory exactly, but something deeper, connection. "I'm home now," he said. And he was. My son was home. It's not a perfect ending. There are still gaps in his memory that may never be filled. There's still pain from the years we lost. There's still grief for Helen, who should be here for this. There's still anger at the people who stole my son and traumatized him so badly his mind had to forget in order to survive. But there's also joy. There's also gratitude. There's also the sound of my grandson's laughter in my backyard. There's also Sunday dinners with my son. And there's also hope. Hope that each day brings him closer to remembering. Hope that we'll have many years ahead to build new memories. Hope that the lost years, while they can't be recovered, can somehow be redeemed by the years we have now. Last night, Marcus asked me to tell him a story before bed. Ryan and Anna were there, sitting on the edge of Marcus's bed. "Tell me about when Daddy was little," Marcus said. I looked at Ryan. He nodded. So I told Marcus about a little boy named Ryan, who loved superheroes and dinosaurs, who was afraid of the dark until we put glow-in-the-dark stars on his ceiling, who made me eat imaginary tea and cookies at his plastic tea set, who asked a million questions and gave the biggest hugs. And as I talked, I saw Ryan's eyes fill with tears. Not because he remembered, but because he was finally learning who he'd been, who he'd always been. When Marcus fell asleep, Ryan walked me to the door. "Thank you," he said, "for not giving up, for identifying that body even though you were wrong. Because if you hadn't, if the case had stayed open, if they'd kept investigating, maybe they would have connected me to the trafficking operation sooner. Maybe I wouldn't have gotten those 3 years with the Castellanos. Maybe I wouldn't be who I am. You're giving me too much credit." "No, Dad." The word came naturally now. "I'm giving you exactly the right amount. You saved me by letting me go. And then you saved me again by welcoming me back." I hugged him. "My son. My miracle. Welcome home, Ryan," I said. "I'm not going anywhere," he promised. And I believe him, because after 29 years of waiting, after 29 years of grief and guilt and desperate hope, my son came home. That's not just a second chance. That's everything.